Pit Viper, I'm with you on just about everything other than the Myles Garrett. I still think that his most likely outcome is to remain in Cleveland, and if he doesn't, I'm not expecting anything serious to happen super soon. Cleveland can drag this out for quite a bit. If they don't get Myles Garrett, which, like I just said, I'm not predicting, Hassan Reddick is interesting. Obviously, Hassan Reddick instrumented his way out of Philly last year. That worked out poorly. He ended up losing $12 million holding out this year. Didn't really pay off to anything on or off the field for him. He's scheduled to hit free agency and is going to make a lot less money. Meanwhile, Josh Sweat hitting free agency and he's about to hit the bank, and that could have been Hassan Reddick. I think that maybe it would be a very Howie Roseman-like move to bring back Hassan Reddick for cheap. However, free agency just a month away. Let's go ahead and preview the rest of the available linebackers. If there is an edge rusher that you're not seeing here, that probably means that Spotrac just has them listed as a defensive lineman. No worries, we already posted our preview for the defensive lineman hitting free agency, so go ahead and check that out if you don't see your guy. Khalil Mack hitting free agency for the first time in his career, expected to join his fourth NFL team. He's been productive at his first three stops, obviously. Vegas/Oakland. It was Oakland at the time, Chicago, and then with the Chargers. I would expect Los Angeles tries to bring him back. Does it happen? I'm not so sure. He can probably make a prettier penny elsewhere. Still a very productive edge rusher. Obviously, the age is up there, but you see guys going until their high 30s at edge rusher at time. Think about Julius Peppers. Think about Dwight Freeney. Those guys are Hall of Famers. Khalil Mack is also on that Hall of Fame track. He might already have the case for it. Who else we got? We got Matthew Judon, another guy. Atlanta bringing him back makes a lot of sense. He was a huge part of that Raheem Morris defense in year one. You give him a full offseason, I don't see why not having even greater impact in 2025. Preston Smith traded to the Steelers at the trade deadline. This is an interesting one. You see Baltimore finagle their way with this quite a bit. If Preston Smith makes a good amount of money on his next contract and he signs in that March to April window, then Pittsburgh will be awarded a comp pick despite him only being on the team for half a year. Situational pass rusher. Right? He's not the full-time guy, but he does have some value. In limited snaps, he was Pittsburgh's fourth edge. He was pretty good. Levante David, amazing. He's not going to play for anybody but Tampa Bay, and I have no reason to think he's going to retire. He had another strong season, and there's been no indication that he is on his way out. Dre Greenlaw only played in 2 games this year, and he was banged up. But if his Achilles is healthy, he is without question a top 10, debatably a top 5 linebacker. There are times where he outplays his running mate in Fred Warner. Health is obviously going to be huge for him. Jerome Baker, another off-ball linebacker. They have him listed as outside linebacker. It really just depends 3-4 versus 4-3. In a 4-3, he can play that outside. In a 3-4, he is going to be inside, though. Known for his speed, Jerome Baker, first year outside of Miami, he's going to be okay. Noticeable step downs from the 2 guys listed ahead of him, but, still solid player. Good run stopper. Bobby Wagner, who knows? Would not be surprised if he goes back to Washington, but I also would not be surprised if he goes to his 4th NFL team. He obviously has had 2 stints in Seattle, a year in between with the Rams, and then last year with Washington. He still playing at a very high level, Pro Bowler, second team All-Pro, along with his teammate Frankie Louvu. Isaiah Simmons, super talented guy, kind of that safety linebacker hybrid. It'll be interesting. I don't think New York will bring him back. He's a guy, the potential's still there. He hasn't lived up to it, but would not be surprised if he gets a decent penny just because the talent is extreme. There's a reason why he was that top 10 pick. Kaiser White, really, I would put him in the same group as Jerome Baker. Starting caliber, but definitely in that very middle of the pack to lower middle of the pack group of linebackers. Anthony Nelson, we can see there, the situational pass rusher. He spent his whole entire career in Tampa Bay. It's going to be interesting to see if he can get a third contract. Devondre Campbell, kind of would be also in that like middle tier of linebackers, especially at this age. However, if you guys remember, the last we saw of him was him quitting on his team, and so guess what? He's not going to be back in San Francisco. Maybe Matt LaFleur can find a spot for him back in Green Bay, working alongside Quay Walker. I'm not sure. We'll see. Maybe Devondre Campbell burnt some bridges over there as well. Who else we got? EJ Speed, another phenomenal tackler. Him and Zaire Franklin, they produce a lot of tackles, but that does not translate into a lot of wins for them. Lorenzo Carter, situational pass rusher. Going back to EJ Speed, it's going to be interesting exactly what happens there. Athletic, yes, but also it's been well documented the Colts struggle with locker room culture, so maybe they move on. Robert Spillane turned into a beast in Las Vegas. He was that spot starter for Pittsburgh. In Vegas, he turned into a stud. Obviously, he was a huge part of Antonio Pierce's group. It'll be interesting to see if he falls into Pete Carroll's plans. Obviously, Patrick Graham still being the defensive coordinator bodes well for him. The guy who replaced him in Pittsburgh, Elandon Roberts kind of filling that Robert Spillane, that Vince Williams run-stopping role. I think he would love to be back in Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh should welcome him back with open arms as long as the price is right. Zach Bond, amazing, great free agent story, huge part of the Eagles Super Bowl run. I also don't think Howie Roseman's going to overpay. I think Howie Roseman loves that for the first time, really, since Michael Kendricks and DeMeco Ryans, the linebacker spot, is consistent. They're also not going to overpay. Zach Bond kind of needs the Eagles, and the Eagles kind of need Zach Bond. Eric Kendricks, remember when we were talking about Devondre Campbell? Eric Kendricks was originally going to go be Devondre Campbell for the 49ers. He leaves to go reunite with Mike Zimmer, his former head coach. Going to be interesting. At this point, he is kind of that middle tier of starter. He's going to give you 100 tackles, but he definitely has lost a step or two. Joe Tryon-Shoyink, I don't know how to say the second part of his abbreviated last name, hasn't really panned out. Athletic freak, selected in the first round. We're going to talk about the guy who he was supposed to take over for Shaq Barrett. I don't know what Shaq Barrett will be doing exactly. Shaq Thompson, former first rounder of the Panthers. He was a part of the team that had Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly during that 2015 Super Bowl run. I'm almost positive that he is the longest tenured Panther. Where does he go? If I'm Dave Canales, I'm trying to bring him back. Willie Gay, super athletic, finally got a chance to play a little bit more in New Orleans. Going to be interesting to see where he goes. For the off-ball linebackers, you're not going to be getting a ton of money with a lot of these guys. The $10 million over-under, I would say, is kind of what you're going to be looking at for the off-ball linebackers. The edge rushers, it obviously varies. Josh Uche, an edge rusher who he's been weird. He had double-digit sacks, but just hasn't really been able to repeat that performance since then. Akeem Davis-Gaither, special teamer. Malik Harrison, kind of that run-stopping special teamer for the Ravens. Who we got? Cody Barden, that's a 100 tackler. Denzel Perriman, kind of repeating what I said about Elandon Roberts. They're very similar players. Devin Bush played a ton of meaningful snaps for the Browns, which is not good for anybody, but the athleticism is still there, and he's only 26, so who knows? Maybe he gets another chance to be that spot starter. Nick Bolton should be in store for a huge payday if he does decide to leave Kansas City. Who else we got? Chris Board, special teamer Anthony Walker, definitely towards the end. Who else we got? Kruger Hill's still playing. That is awesome. That guy's amazing. Part of that first Eagles Super Bowl run. Baron Browning, I kind of like him because he can be an edge rusher or an off-ball guy. Ernest Jones, would not be shocked if he winds up back in Los Angeles with the Rams. Oren Burks, Julian Okwara, Devin White. What a fall off. What a fall off. All right, wrapping it up here. Zach Cunningham still kicking it with the Broncos. I forgot the Broncos were signing pretty much any linebacker alive last year, trying to find another off-ball guy to replace Josie Jewell.